for what God is doing in this season and what God is doing in this hour. The Bible declares the steps of a good man are what ordered by the Lord. And we thank God for ordering our steps in this hour. We thank God for ordering our steps in this time. So as you come on, share the love, share the love, share the love, share the love. We're just so grateful for what the Spirit of the Lord is doing in this hour. Share the love. We just thankful. Many of you, you're in those kitchens burning, getting those pots ready for tomorrow. We're just so grateful. That is usually me. See, usually when I cook, I start cooking from last night. Usually I start cooking from Tuesday. I got we having all my meat seasoned, and I'm a Southern girl, so I'm getting all the working, getting all my meats. Usually I have about maybe 5 or 6 meats seasoned up, and then I getting that macaroni and cheese and baked ziti and lasagna, and getting collard greens and black eyed peas and everything together. String beans. Oh my God! I think I'm making my own self hungry. And then I usually do. I'm famous for my sweet potato pie. Some of y'all know about my sweet potato pie. I'm famous for my sweet potato pie. I usually when I make for Thanksgiving, I'm not doing it this year, so don't be putting in no orders. But usually I make about 12, 14 pies, and about three quarters of them are already gone. By the time I finish making them, people have already put their order in, or they just get bold and just come by with their bag, or I've had people come and just come with their aluminum pans so they can bring their food home. So this year Doc is quiet on today. I'm gonna be doing the traveling instead of cooking, but one of these days, I'm gonna get back in that kitchen and burn the pots. Yes, Doc can burn the pots. Yes, she can. Yes, she can burn the pots when she wants to. But right now I'm on a 21-day consecration, so I'm not gonna give the devil no room, because when you cook, you gotta taste. I'll be making my stuffing and putting my different meats in there and my seasonings and my herbs, and so you have to taste. You have to sample the situation. Anybody know what I'm talking about? You have to sample. You have to make sure it tastes good. Now you can't be putting no food on the table and that thing don't taste good. The folk be looking at you like, what's going on? So they used to always tease me. They're like, when I cook, I'm a sampler. So by the time it was time to eat, I wasn't hungry, because I done had a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of this, that. Oh yeah, and then making that potato salad. The other day we had an event a couple weeks ago. We had an event at my job, and we had a potluck, and somebody had brought in some potato salad. It was almost like mine. It wasn't quite there. It was almost like that. It was almost there, but child, the Southern folk, they had the egg in there, they had everything, but they forgot to pickle relish. How in the world you gonna make some potato salad and you ain't got the sandwich spread up in there? Anybody know what I'm talking about? Anybody know what I'm talking about? You got to have the sandwich spread up in there. You can't be having the stuff and don't have it. Anyway, let me stop talking about food. Good morning and welcome to the Aroma of Prayer with your own Dr. Tonya Williams. As we go forth this morning, I thank God, because God is doing a new thing, and what it shall spring forth. It shall spring forth. I'm good today. I'm chitty chatty this morning, because yesterday was my last day of work. I have the week off, and so I'm excited. So I don't have to see work till next week Tuesday. Peace. So I'm like, after I finish the aroma prayer, I can crawl back in my bed and tell the Lord yes. Anybody know that? Anybody know what I'm talking about? Tell them yes. Anyway, let me share what the word of the Lord is this morning. I know many of you say, Doc, what is going on with you? But I'm telling you, this is the day that the Lord has made, and we will rejoice and be glad in it. So this morning's word I want to share with you is called Turn the Page. I want you to lay your hands on yourself and say what? turn the page. The book of Joshua, Joshua chapter 1. I want to share a little bit about this morning. The book of Joshua is all about God turning the page on the Israelites. Joshua is the leader as the people transitions from a wandering nation. For 40 years, the people wandered from Egypt towards the land of promise. Many of you who are familiar with the story, and those of you who aren't, Moses was the one that was called by God to take millions of people who were in bondage out of Egypt, out of the land of Goshen, and we're going to take them to a place that he had spoken to their great grandfather Abraham, a promised land that was spoken unto him, and he was going to take them to that place. But in the process of time, they had to go through a season of transition. They had to go through a season of processing before they could get that which was promised to them. But Moses was the leader, and there was a young man named Joshua at that time who was, whether beknownst to him, he was being trained, he was being processed to be the next to take over this great assignment. So even as we see Joshua, he is one that's diligent to the man of God. He was there when others wasn't there. He worked hard like others worked. And we find Joshua in this season and this hour where Moses has now passed away. Moses has now, his season was up. You know, many people say, oh, Moses, there's so many great things. They don't understand why Moses wasn't able to enter into the promised land. We each have an oil for what we have been called to do. Moses had the anointing to take the people out. That there was his assignment. He did not have the oil to bring the people into the promised land. That was not his assignment. His assignment was to bring the people out of out of Egypt. And Joshua's assignment was to do what? Was to bring the people into the promised land. So we find Joshua here for 40 years. The people were wandering from Egypt towards the land of promise. And now God was going to use Joshua to transition into something completely new. He was going to use Joshua to transition the people into what was called the promised land. Whether you know it or not, and I'm telling you, I feel this very strongly in my spirit, we are in a season of transition. I've been saying that this whole year. I've been saying it, I've been speaking it, I've been decreeing it, I've been declaring it. That's why the warfare and the fight has been so great. It seems like you're just getting hit on every side, and you're wondering what is going on. But see, you got to understand and you know that you're right at the door. God is about to show himself mighty. God is about to show himself strong in the lives of his people. And so you got to understand that you are right now at a season of transition. Ask the Lord to take us forward in the direction in which he wants us to go. God, lead us and guide us in where you want us to go. Father, we know that our steps are being ordered by you. We don't want to miss you in this season. We don't want to miss you in this hour. We don't want to miss you in this time. You know, one thing you got to understand, when you're in a season of transition, God is getting ready to turn the page. There is a next chapter that's getting ready that's getting ready for you. But you have to understand, you cannot fear what the future holds. You cannot fear what the future holds, but you got to let go of your past. You got to let go of the things that you are familiar with, the things that you have been comfortable with, and embrace your next, embrace your future. I want you to lay your hands on yourself and say, Lord, teach me how to embrace my next. Teach me how to embrace my next. It's time to turn the page. It's time to turn the page. God speaks to Joshua. Yes, he does. And said, Moses, my servant, is dead. Right there. When that word is spoken, that lets you know there's change that just happened. This is instant change. It's usually when there is a death, and it doesn't always have to be a physical death. It could be an emotional death. It could be a mental death. It could be many different areas that something is closed or something is now removed. And in the process of it being closed, and now in the process of it being removed, it's instant change. The other day, I was out with a bunch of friends, and we wanted to go out to eat. And so as we were going out to eat, I started to reminisce. I think we were on our way to Hempstead, and of course, every time when I go to Hempstead, I always talk about Nagasaki. I love Nagasaki. I love their food, and it's the Jamaican Chinese restaurant in Hempstead. So I always talk about the day when I went to Nagasaki. It was a Saturday night. I was wondering why the parking lot was dark, and I looked, and Nagasaki was closed. I was traumatized. I was so upset. I was so traumatized. For those of you who know me, I'm a foodie. I love to eat. So I was so upset. I was so upset because many days on my way home, I will call to order so I can do my takeout, get my curry shrimp. Yeah, I know I'm a Southern girl, but I love Jamaican food. I have all these Jamaican friends, so they got me hooked on Jamaican food. So I would go there, and when it was no longer there, for me it was instant change. So now I was trying to maneuver to find me another restaurant to fulfill my palate. So then after a while, I realized, what I desired wasn't there anymore. So what did I have to do now? I either had to have my Jamaican friends cook it for me, which they did, or I had to learn how to do it myself. Remember that parable. You give a person a fish, they eat for a day. You teach a person how to fish, and they eat for a lifetime. So I had to learn, either get someone that was willing to make me what I want, or either learn how to do it myself. But I said all of that because when I went to that restaurant, it was changed. It seemed like right there, my food, the part of me that loves food, I changed forever. But anyway, let's get back to Moses. I had a food moment. Okay, so Moses, my servant, is dead. Instant change happened. Instant change. The death of Moses is a major milestone in the lives of the children of Israel. Moses' death affected the entire nation. So you understand, Moses was a leader for 40 years. The last third of his life was from ages 80 to 120. Moses was 80 when God parted the waters of the Red Sea so the Israelites could escape from slavery into Egypt. For 40 years, Moses was the leader as they traveled in the wilderness. Then Moses died at the age of 120. Israel mourned for 30 days. Then it was time for them to move on. God was saying, in effect, it's time to turn the page. It's time to turn the page. Some of you have got to the end of your end. Some of you have gotten to the end of your end. It's time now to do what? Turn the page. It's time now to turn the page. Joshua, Moses was a great man. He was my servant, but he's gone now. Now I'm choosing you to do something for me. See, some of you, there's some chapters in your life that's getting ready to close. There's some things in your life that is over, kaput, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. God said, get ready to turn the page. There are some things that are about to open up for you. That's why I've been teaching you, and I've been standing in agreement. I've been saying to you, do not faint in the day of adversity, because what your strength is weak. There is, the Bible declares in Galatians 6 and 9, be not weary in well doing, for you shall reap if you faint not. The enemy wanted you to give up, but I keep feeling this very strongly. You are right at the door. You are right at the door. That's why the fight is so hard. That's why the warfare is so great. I mean, stuff that happened to me over the last couple of weeks. I'm like, what in the world is this? I mean, my head was spinning. I felt like I was going in circles. I'm like, what in the world is? But God kept speaking to me. You're right at the door. You're right at the door. You're right at the door. The enemy wants you to pick your stuff up and go, but you're right at the door. You're right at the door. There's something good that's getting ready to happen to you. Yes, yes, yes. There's a supernatural door that's getting ready to open for you. This is the season now. As the Lord has been speaking to me about not even this upcoming year, it's a decade. It's a decade. The Lord said to me that this is the hour that we're about to walk in the manifestation of the promises that He has spoken over our lives. I feel manifestation. I feel us walking into what God has spoken. Those prophetic words that was lingering over your head, those words that God deposited and imparted into your spirit, they have not fallen to the ground. Do you hear me, children? They have not fallen to the ground. But God is about to show himself mighty, and God is about to show himself strong. God is choosing something for you to do. Yes, 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 yes. You have labored. You have cried. You have been rejected. You have been overlooked. But let me tell you something. I want you to lay your hands on yourself and say, I'm getting ready to have the last laugh. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm getting ready to have the last laugh. They laughed at me. They made fun of me. Hee ha ha. Hee ha. But let me tell you something. You the one that's gonna be holding your belly like Santa Claus in this season. Ho ho ho. Yeah. You gonna be the one that's gonna be laughing in this season. Why? Because God is getting ready to turn the pages. Yeah, yeah, yeah. God is getting ready to turn the pages. The Bible says, he that humbles himself under the mighty hand of God, the Lord will exalt him in due season. This is a season of promotion. This is a season of exaltation. This is the season that God is bringing you out of the shadows and into the forefront. You have sown in tears. You have sown in tears, children, but you're getting ready to reap in joy. Do you hear me, man of God? Do you hear me, woman of God? You're getting ready to reap in joy. God is saying to you today, turn the page. Let go of the past. It's time to move on. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The greatest roadblock to deepening our relationship with God right now is the refusal to let some things go. Sweetheart, you got to let some things go. You got to let some things go. I tell you, I thank God for good people in my life. And I was experiencing something the other day, and I had called one of my friends, and I was sharing with her what was going on. And she said to me, Dr. Williams, and I'm telling you, this thing, it changed my life, and it blessed me on Monday. She said to me, Dr. Williams, don't cash that check. Don't cash. They want you to cash that check. They want you to enter into a place that you don't need to enter into. Don't cash that check. Leave that check on the table and walk away. And you know what? And that thing blessed me so, because you got to be sensitive, because the enemy will come in any ways to try to take you out of character, to try to get you mad, to get you upset over stuff that is not even worth it. So we got to understand, and we have to know that this is the hour, this is the season now where God is saying there's certain things you don't need to get involved with. When the enemy is trying to come in like a flood, you got to understand that the Spirit of the Lord will do what? Lift up a standard against it. Yes, he will. He will lift up a standard. 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 But you got to know there's certain things you cannot entertain. There's certain things you cannot walk into. You got to understand that God is your battle axe. He's your weapon of war. He's the one that's going to do the fighting for you, because God is getting ready to turn the page in your life. God is getting ready to open up a door. And I'm telling you, I taught on Monday, certain things you just got to rest, children. You got to rest. This battle is not yours, but the battle is the Lord's. For some things that are just speculation, there's some things that people are going to be looking stupid in the end because they don't even know what they're talking about. You know, you got to understand, you know, that when you are in a season of God getting ready to give you a supernatural breakthrough, you can't miss what God has designed for your life. You got to stay focused, children. Do you hear me? You got to stay focused. 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 The weapons might form, but they cannot prosper. You cannot cash that check. You cannot cash that check. Because in the final analysis, you are the one that's going to pay for the fees when the check bounces. You're the one that's going to pay for the fees. Yeah, they get a fee. But let me tell you something. Your bank will give you a charge too. If you deposit a check that is no good, not only do they get a fee, you get a fee too. Don't cash that check. Do you hear me? Don't cash that check. See, some of the greatest roadblocks to us entering into our next is what is allowing the old to keep you from entering into the new. See, the Bible says, God said to Joshua, Moses, my servant, is dead. It's time now for you to turn the page. Whatever is in your past that is blocking your future, let go of it. It's time to turn the page. Stop trying to vindicate yourself. Stop trying. Stop trying to say, well, no. Walk in love and walk in peace. Do you hear me, man of God? Do you hear me, woman of God? Walk in love and walk in peace and let God handle the rest. Understand this, that cream always rises to the top. Yes, it does. Cream always rises to the top. And no matter how the enemy might try to suppress you, no matter how the enemy might try to hold you back, no matter how much the enemy might try to keep you down, the word of the Lord over your life is what? I'm rising to the top. Keep rising to the top. Give it all you got. Yeah, I should go there with that song, right? I should go back old school. But you got to give it all you got. You're going to keep rising to the top because God knows exactly what he's doing in this season and in this hour. To understand this, that change is difficult. Change is a difficult thing in life to deal with, but transition can be even more difficult. Well, Dr. Williams, what do you mean? To understand this, however, emotional and spiritual health are dependent on being able to navigate through the transitions in life by letting go inwardly of what has come to pass in order to take hold of what is coming ahead. See, we are able to do this better when we recognize that it's just another chapter in the story of life. See, there's certain things, babies. Not only do you transition physically, you have to transition emotionally, you have to transition mentally, and you have to transition spiritually. See, you got to feel the new that God is doing. You got to feel the new that God is doing. God is doing a new thing, and it shall spring forth. We got to have in this season, in this hour, forward-looking anticipation. We got to have a great expectation of what God is doing. I was sharing with someone the other day. I said, I feel something down in my spirit. I feel something down in my heart that God is. I came out so there's a breakthrough that is on this way. There is a breakthrough that is on this way. And the enemy, children, wants you to give up. You cannot give up in this season. You cannot give up in this hour. You must fight the good fight of faith. Do you hear me, man of God? Do you hear me, woman of God? You have to fight the good fight of faith. God is getting ready to shift you to your next. Yes, he is. He's getting ready to shift you to your next. See, that's why we've been in a process. We have been undergoing some changes. Some of us have been closed for renovations. Yeah. Because there's some renovation that is going on. The other day, a couple of months ago, but the other day I had passed, I think it was on Jericho Turnpike, and I happened to, sometimes when you drive, you don't pay attention to the things on the side. And I happened to look, and I saw that there was a Wendy's a couple of months ago that was closed, and it said closed for renovation. So the other day I happened to be driving, I was sitting at the light, and I happened to look, and I saw that the Wendy's was open. But not only was it open, it had a better drive-through. The whole facing of it was beautiful. Everything was upgraded. Everything was taken to another level. But it had to go through the renovations to get the upgrade. Yeah. Some of you have been going through some stuff, but God said, I've allowed you to go through it because I needed to upgrade you. Yeah. See, what you was operating in was a yesterday anointing. What you was operating in was a yesterday oil. But God had to give you something fresh. God had to give you something new, because where God is getting ready to take you, the old oil just won't do. You can't use rancid oil in a new season. You can't use rancid oil in a new season. I come up from the days that, we don't do this anymore, but when I was younger, I remember my mother with the Crisco can. Anybody know what I'm talking about? See, I'm a Southern girl. I remember my mother with the Crisco can, and she'd go and you take them globs of Crisco and put it in that black skillet pan. Anybody know what I'm talking about? To fry that chicken. She put that Crisco in there. She let that Crisco melt, and we be frying up that chicken. But then what she do when she finished, she take that strainer and she pour that oil back in that Crisco pan. Anybody know what I'm talking about? And she would reuse that oil. But then after a while, that oil had to be thrown out, and she got fresh oil, and she started with fresh Crisco all over again. See, this is a season now you've been reusing that oil. But lay your hands on yourself and say, it's time for some fresh oil. Yeah, it's time for some fresh oil. But you got to be willing to let go of the old oil. Yeah. You got to be willing to let go of the old oil. See, she had the can for the chicken grease. She had the can for the fish grease. Yeah, she had the can. You had to be careful which one you use, because if you accidentally use the oil that you use for the fish or the chicken, when you cook your chicken's gonna be tasting like fish. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you had to be sensitive to the oil that was used and what you were making. God, in this season, He's working on many of us now. You have been in a season of renovation. You have been in a season where it felt like you've been in the fight of your life. But I come to let you know that God is getting ready to turn the page for you. When you turn the page, even now, I have a Kindle, so I really don't have any physical books like I used to. But when I'm reading a physical book, when I get ready to turn the page, just before I get to the last paragraph, I put my little finger in my mouth and I wet it just a little bit, and I start to grab to the end of the page, or I start to grab to the top of the page, and I get ready to position myself so when I get to the last sentence, when I get to that last word, I'm able to turn the page to what? To keep the flow of what I'm doing, to keep the flow of what I'm reading. See, some of you right now, you are in that process where what? God is turning the page in your life, and it's turning for the better. It's turning for the better. You have been sowing in tears, but you're getting ready to reap in joy. Do you hear me, man of God? Do you hear me, woman of God? You're getting ready to reap in joy. God is getting ready to do a new thing, and it what? And it shall spring forth. But you got to be able to deal with the change. You got to be able to deal with what God has ordained for your life. See, we are in a season of change. You know, we know that right now we are in our fall season. We are in our fall season. There have been some days that I have come out for work. It was 30 degrees outside. Yesterday, it was 60-something degrees outside. It felt like a spring day yesterday where I was. But it didn't change the fact that the season had changed. Just because the temperature had changed did not mean the season had changed. Like this the fall, we're still in fall season until December 21st. And once December 21st comes, then we shift into another season. But see, you got to understand and discern the season that you're in. It doesn't mean now because it was warm yesterday, I'm going to go pull out my summer clothes. It was just to let me know, even though things might fluctuate, the season is still the same. The season is still the same. God is speaking over this line this morning that He is turning the page in your life. There's about to be a sudden season shift. There's about to be a sudden season shift. There's elevation. There is promotion that is coming to the people of God. And I'm telling you, you're going to be so glad that you weathered the storm. You're going to be so glad that you have fought, that you have stood your ground. You're going to be so glad. See, understand this. Change is usually external, where transition is an internal attitude. Transition can be exciting and positive, or it can be difficult. See, understand and know that, exciting things could be graduation, a new job, a new assignment, relationships, marriage, whatever that thing is. Difficulties can be a midlife crisis. It could be an abusive relationship. It could be hard times. Whatever it might be, understand and know that the process of transition is necessary. The process of transition is necessary because that process of transition is letting you know that there's some things that is turning in your life. But you got to leave the previous chapter. You got to leave the previous page, because if you get stuck on the page, you never know what's on the next. If you get stuck at where you are right now, you never know what God desires to do for you in your next. See, most of us, we don't want to be limited to a single chapter. We don't want to be limited to where you are right now. Because where you are right now, this is one of my mantras, where you are right now is not your final destination. God has more for you. Do you hear me, man of God? Do you hear me, woman of God? God has more for you. And because God has more for you, I come to speak to those that are listening to the sound of my voice. You are at an end of a chapter. You are at an end of a chapter. The Lord says this morning, get ready because He's turning the page. Don't get stuck. Even though it might have been a good chapter, even though you might have enjoyed this chapter, Some of you, you might have hated this chapter in your life. It might have been so hard, it might have been so bad, but I come to let you know it's over. It's over, and it's time to turn the page. Time always have a way of what? Moving us forward. Nothing stays the same. The Bible says in him we live, we move, and we have our being. Understand and know that we are people of movement. We are people. We are not a stagnant people. We are people that have been called to grow. We have been people that have been called to mature. We have been people that have been called to shift to their next. To understand and know that in this season and in this hour, God has great things that he has designed for your life. But you got to forget those things which are behind, and you got to press forward to what lies ahead. What lies behind? Education. What lies behind? The storms of life. What lies behind? But God is calling you to a different direction now. God is telling you to leave the previous chapter. He's opening up a new chapter for you. But are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready for what? That's why 2019 was a season of preparation. 2019, God wants a prepared people for a prepared place. Are you prepared for what God has for you? I remember when I was going to take my master's, and I had to take the GRE, and I had to take the GMAT, and I went to classes to prepare myself for those tests when I got ready to go to the master's program. And I remember the rigorous time of studying and going back and learning different things or whatever the case might be. But I had to realize that this was a prerequisite that I had to do if I wanted to get into the master's program. If I wanted to get into I had to prepare myself for those exams so I could get to where I needed to go. See, understand there are some things that are prerequisites for you to enter into. Many of you, you've been fighting what God has spoken, what God has called on your life. But I've been teaching you, you got to let the process do what? Process you. See, it's time to turn to the next chapter. See, the great thing about the next chapter is what? It has not been written yet by you. It's written in the Lamb's Book of Life. It's written because the Father knows exactly what and who and how and what. But you have an opportunity to write what's in the next chapter. You can't change the past, but the future is a different story. It is full of possibilities. By you turning the page, you're turning the page to opportunities. You're turning the page to possibilities. You're turning the page to door openers. I come to speak to those of you this morning and speak over this line and say, it's time to turn the page. 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 Be not weary in well-doing, for you shall reap if you faint not. But God is doing a new thing in the lives of his people. Do not allow the enemy to make you miss this season. Do not allow the enemy to make you miss this hour. Children of God, hear me and hear me clearly. The fight is on because the devil sees. He got a glimpse. He got an inkling of what God is getting ready to do for you. And he doesn't want it to happen. He doesn't want. But hear me clearly. Fight the good fight of faith. Fight the good fight of faith. Stand your ground. Be like a tree planted by the rivers of water. You will bring forth in due season. Do not allow the enemy to take you out of character. Do not allow the enemy to move you out your place of blessing. Do not allow the enemy to move you out the place that God has ordained for your life, because you are right at the door and God is getting ready to turn the page in your life. And let me tell you something. This is a good chapter you're getting ready to enter into. I thank you so much for joining me this morning on the Aroma of Prayer. I pray that you were blessed. I pray that you were encouraged. I pray most of all that you are charged up this morning, because things are getting ready to turn for you. Be blessed, be encouraged. Have a blessed and wonderful holiday. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. I pray that your time time of love and sharing with your family is robust, and there is great, great fellowship and koinonia for each and every one. As you go forth, I will be back on the line Friday morning to continue our aroma of prayer season. Because I know one thing, God is turning the page in our lives. Be blessed, be encouraged. Have a blessed, a wonderful, and awesome day in Jesus' name. God bless you.